Hello, in this video we will talk about 3 reasons to use Power BI variables. Now, I'm not saying that there are only 3 reasons to use them. I just want to do a quick video about variables, and I picked these 3 to cover in this video. Specifically, we will talk about readability, caching, and performance aspects of Power BI variables. You can use variables in DAX when you create new columns, where you create measures. In this particular example, I will just use DAX as I create new columns. We have a very simple data set here for sales. We have date, product, units, and then we have gross sales. Then there's some discounts, rebates, and the customer. So basically we're saying on this date, this customer got sold this product, and this is how many units. That was the total sales, and then we also applied some discounts and rebates. And what we'll be trying to do for the rest of the video is playing with net price. So let's talk about readability first. So here is my net price calculation, and in our case we're lucky because each column is well named. So we have a column that's named gross sales, discounts, rebates. So if you more or less understand the sales data set, you will understand what those columns mean. Therefore, the way we define our net price is, in order to calculate net price, what we're going to do is we're going to take our gross sales, deduct our rebates and discounts from it, and then we're going to divide it by number of units. And then we're going to get net price. Net price divided by units will give us, net revenue. And then if we divide net revenue by units, we will get net price. So as I said, in this case, we're lucky. Columns are well named. If you could have gotten not very lucky and gotten like an SAP table back where these columns would have some crazy 4 or 5 digit names. And in which case, this formula, as you read it, may not have been so easy to understand. Therefore, the first thing and the first aspect that I want to talk about is readability. So here in commented out section, I left the original formula. I just commented it out with 2 dashes. And then I rewrote the formula and I introduced the concept of variables. If you have not used variables before, it's actually a very simple concept. And the notation for variable goes as follows. You create a variable, you create a measure name, then you go equal sign. And then after equal sign, what you do is you type the keyword var, variable var, you give it a name, and then after another equal sign, you spell out the actual formula that goes into net sales. So, and you can have more than one variable. And what I do, I usually put them on different lines, and I do a shift enter so I can have some white space in between my lines just to make it easier to read. So in this case, I created a variable called net sales, and then in order to return the value of the, to use those variables in the calculation, the very last command in this calculation should include the word return. So say return, that just says that whatever follows the word return is what will be the value of the measure. So in our case, the measure name is net price variable. Net price and VAR, I just denote that it uses variables. So net price with variables. And net price is, we're going to take our net sales divided by units, and that's going to be net price. So I argue that this is a little bit better documented. So if these column names were not easy to understand, effectively I'm documenting and saying that if you deduct these 2 values from sales, you're going to get net sales. And then net price is net sales divided by units. So now let's take a little bit more complicated formula, and again I'm going to try to make an example that variables dramatically improve with the readability of your code. So here we're trying to calculate an average product price. So what am I trying to say? I'm saying that I have a product that I'm selling across multiple days and multiple customers, but what I want to do is to say, okay, if I sum up all of the revenue, net revenue for this product, and I divide it by all of the units sold for this product, I'm gonna get that average price for this product. And that's what we're doing here. So this code here, we're saying sum, and then sum x requires a table. So our table is, we're gonna filter our sales table, the table we're in, and we only want to see the products in this table that are equal to the product that is for the current record, and that's this earlier. And by the way, I realized that earlier is not an easy function for people to understand, which is why in a subsequent formula I will show you how to avoid using earlier, because I think, again, it's not very intuitive for a lot of people. But effectively what we do here is we're saying we're going to be calculating our net revenue, okay, and we're going to be dividing it by our units, but we only want to do it for the same product. So we're going to look into our sales table and only look at the products. So as I go record by record here, whichever the current product is in this record, filter the whole table to just that product so I can calculate the average. I realize that this is probably a little bit confusing, so let's see how I solve this using the variables. So let's look at this calculation. So again, the same kind of thing, average product price with variables. Now introduce two variables. Variable 1 says all net product revenue, and here is the DAX code to calculate that. Again, it works the same way. I'm just making it a little bit more readable, so that instead of having everything be cluttered into one long DAX command, I break it down into separate steps. Step number 1, calculate net product revenue, then calculate net product number of units sold for the same product. Then I'm going to divide net product revenue by product units, and that's going to give me that average product price. Now you're looking at the example where I'm not using earlier command. So if it's difficult for you to understand how earlier works, if it's not intuitive, you don't have to use it. And the way you could use it is by using just a variable. So what I've done is, before I jump and calculate those filters, I'm gonna cache the current value for the product into this variable. So my product for current record variable will hold the value for this product. So by the time I get into my filters, so as long as I'm in this line, I'm only looking at, as you know, when you add a new column, it executes one row at a time. So I'm just looking at the current row. The minute you introduce a filter in your formula, now you're looking at more than one row, right? So, and when you're looking at more than one row, if you're fairly new to Power BI, sometimes it's very difficult to understand the difference between having one row at a time, having multiple rows, and maybe in this particular case, this will be a little bit easier for you to see. So we're saying, okay, my current product is this. I'm going to cache it. And then when I do my filter, I'm going to say calculate the net revenue, so gross sales minus discounts minus rebates, for all of the products where the product is the same as my current product. And my current product is cached in this variable. Everything else is the same, and you could see that the result is going to be the same between both columns. And the last piece I want to talk about is why we would use variables to improve performance. So in this case, what I'm doing is I want to calculate the highest price. So I want to take a look at the current net price for each row in the table, compare it with the average product price, and then whichever one is higher, I'm going to put it in this column. So that's what this calculation does. Effectively, I have an if statement. An if statement calculates, says if my net price is greater or equal to my average price, then use net price. Otherwise, use average price. And you could see that A, it's hard to understand. B, it's not very efficient. Basically, we're calculating a couple of these things twice. So we're calculating the net price first, then we're doing then we're calculating the average price, then we're doing a comparison, And after that's done, we're going to calculate either the net price or the average price again. So effectively, we're calculating things, at least one of those calculations twice. So using variables allows us to write this code more efficient, where we only calculate each of those things once. So here's the example of how to optimize that prior code for performance. So we're saying the highest price. Now we're going to be using variables. So we're just going to break all of those things into two different variables. Variables number 1 will calculate net price, and we're going to do it once. Variable number 2 will calculate average product price, and again we're going to do it once. And then in our return statement, we're just going to write a very simple logic. So if net price is greater than average product price, use net price. Otherwise, use average product price. So in this case, we've done the calculation once, and then we're just doing a simple if-else logic here using the pre-calculated values. So if you have a small table, then you probably are not going to see a whole lot of performance gain. But if you have, tens or hundreds of millions of rows, this sort of optimization could yield you quite a significant boost in performance. To summarize, variables are a very powerful and useful feature of DAX and Power BI. There are many reasons to use them. At the very least, you should consider the 3 reasons I outlined in this video. Making code more readable or better readable, making caching possible if need be, so you could cache some values before you start messing with filters. And number 3 is performance optimization. In this particular case, I used columns to make my point, but the same would apply in measures. So variables work exactly the same way. Hope you found this video informative, and please come back again for more soon. Thank you. Bye.